Project, stories about our veterans here in Woodbridge. With me today is Stu Brandow. Welcome, Stu.
And thank you very much for being here again. And I'd like to make a little suggestion on my part. I know a lot of people have seen me many times, and it's been an honor every time. But I'd like to have at this time that the people sitting in the audience trying to visualize me as one of their brothers, as your father, grandfather, and let maybe they can relate to what I've gone through, because a lot of these fellows, they've never got a chance to talk to you people. Again, I appreciate what being on again.
That's a great sentiment, Stu, and you're sort of the spokesman for the people that can't be here and tell us their story. Well, let's start our story basically where most stories start, is where you were born. You were born in upstate New York?
I was born in a little town called Leeds, L-E-E-D-S, New York. I spent most of my time in the town of Catskill. I was back and forth from Leeds to Catskill. I had moved many times.
But you grew up mainly in Catskill.
Catskill, yeah.
And you went into the service right after high school?
I graduated in Catskill High School in June of '43, and I was drafted in June of '44.
Oh, okay, so you were drafted.
I'm sorry, my mistake. I was graduated in '43 of June and went into the service in July of '43.
Oh, wow.
1 month.
So
1 month.
1 month out of high school, and
Yes.
Uncle Sam called you.
Yes.
And you went to basic training boot camp where?
Well, I went into the service. They sent us like to Albany, and then we went down to Fort Dix. We got all our papers and work and everything. Then I went into Fort McClellan, Alabama, for my 13 weeks basic training.
Okay.
While I was there, I took a test after basic was over, and I applied for the Air Cadet. I will say that I did not make it the first time. I only had a high school mathematical business course, and I decided I'm going to try again. I did make it that time.
So you persevered. Good.
Yes, sir. Then they sent me to Miami Beach. What a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
From Fort Dix to Miami Beach.
I have to say, I probably was put into the infantry because while I was in the Catskills, during the school time, there was not much for us fellows to do. I didn't mention this in my other interviews. I belonged to the State Guard, and they gave me a chance to learn a lot. It actually made me an infantryman. That's probably why they put me back into the infantry.
Okay. And then you had special training in machine gun, 30 caliber machine gun?
We called it the 30 caliber water machine gun.
That's an interesting story. We'll get
Yeah,
to
it's
later.
a different because there is a 30 caliber air.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is,
The smaller is taken over by the regular troops, the riflemen, and we carried it. We was more or less a heavy weapons group.
30 caliber is a large shell, yeah. Now, after training, it was, I guess, time for the war was there, and you crossed the Atlantic?
Well, I think we're going a little bit too far ahead because
Okay.
when I was in the Air Cadets,
Okay, yeah.
well, I went from the Miami Beach up to Norwich University, and it was a tough course, it really was, and I had a great time there. It was a whole lot different than the infantry. We was only there a few months. In April, we found out that we was going to be taken out because of the Battle of the Bulge. And I only had about a half hour in the Piper Cub. I didn't get
Okay.
much training. But then they shipped us to a place down in Camp Pickett, Virginia. And that's when we got more training. When we first went there, they were using the 78th Division more or less as replacements. Now, we found out the 78th Division was one of the most, I should say this, mostly all the guys from the colleges was put in the 78th Division.
Now, they were called the Lightning Division. Is there a reason why
The
it was called
78th
Lightning?
Lightning Division, yes, sir. And that is a New Jersey division.
Okay.
Right back from the 1918s. That's when they first started this. See, that's why we got the saying that lightning does strike twice.
Right. Yeah, I knew there was a nickname for the Lightning. So now you're in Virginia. Is it there that they tell you it's time to ship overseas?
Well, we didn't know what was going to happen. We had our regular trainings again, just like was in, you call it boot camp. But anyway, we had more training. And we were lucky. When you go as a division, you know all your fellows, you work together, eat, drink, whatever,
Your buddies,
together.
sure.
If you go as a replacement, it's tough because you got to learn everybody's ways again. And we found out that most of the fellows that got killed in Europe when we were there are replacements.
Oh.
Because they tried to prove themselves.
Sure.
And they were great guys, but that's life.
Okay, now you crossed were you concerned at all? You crossed by ship?
We went in New York City, out of New York Harbor. I think it was October the 13th.
Okay.
In that area. We shipped over by Navy ships, and they were mostly troop ships. Some people.
Were you concerned about U-boats at this juncture?
Oh, yes. Again, I've been very fortunate. We went over, and it took us, I think it was about 10 or 12 days. And the reason for that, we went in a convoy.
Right.
And the reason for this, they zigzagged and all. As far as I know, we were never attacked by a sub. And that's a good feeling.
Yeah, the zigzagging is
Yes.
the countermeasures
Yes.
for submarine attacks. So now you landed in where?
We landed in Plymouth in October.
Okay,
And then we went from Plymouth, where they took us to a beautiful place called Bournemouth. Today it's a real resort. We got more training there. And then in November, I remember that distinctly because it was Thanksgiving time, we moved from Bournemouth to Southampton. We went over the English Channel, as I mentioned to you earlier, that we went over on an English ship. And we found out later that we got their mutton and they ate our turkey.
They had your Thanksgiving turkey.
And then we landed in Le Havre, and it was raining. It rained a lot during the war, and I think they found out once they start with the heavens and bombing and all, it caused a lot of rain. But anyway, we had our Thanksgiving dinner that evening. And I tell this story because I know a lot of guys know this. When you're eating out of a mess kit, and you're eating when it's raining, and it's night, you don't know if you're going to have mashed potatoes or chocolate pudding.
Is
and
it
that's
soup?
the way
Exactly. Exactly. So the Battle of the Bulge took place in December?
Yes, December.
It started.
Yes.
They shouldn't say it took place. It started in December.
started.
It went for 100. And you were there for how long in the battle?
We landed on the front lines, I believe it was around December the 13th. And I remember it very well because it was cold. And I had my machine gun there, and we learned something from war that we didn't know in our time at home. We had to open up one time. And as I said, we have a water-cooled machine gun.
Right.
The officer didn't know it. We didn't know it. I got one round off because the gun froze. The water froze.
It's December, sure. It's cold.
They forgot to put antifreeze in it. We never gave it a thought. But we weren't the only ones. It happened over the whole front lines. Again, we were lucky we weren't on an overrun.
Right, sure. Yeah, if you can't fire your weapon. The Battle of the Bulge, did it include, I know the story includes a dam, and then there's also a bridge. The taking of the bridge, which was key for your forces.
In a lot of ways, that was a beautiful bridge. Patton found out that a bridge was still up, this is the one time we didn't have to walk. They put us on trucks.
Okay.
They got us there to make sure that we got there. And when we got there, the Germans did try to blow it. They actually pulled the plug on it. And when the bridge actually raised up, it went right back down again. It blew a hole in the part of it.
Wow. So they did detonate the bridge.
Yes, sir. And I've had the honor of meeting the first soldier that went over that bridge on a tour.
Wow.
And the little story about that gentleman is, when we went back a couple of times, we had a rededication. I found out in later life that he was killed crossing a bridge in an automobile.
Really?
It's faith.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, an irony. So now, when you crossed the bridge, was it under fire when you crossed the bridge?
Yes.
It was.
Yes, they tried. They really tried. It's V2s, V1s, frogmen, artillery.
Wow, everything. They threw everything at you.
Planes. They even used the Messerschmitt the first time there. The AA, they knocked a lot of the German planes off. When we went over the bridge, we got on the other side. Some people might know about this bridge. And on the other side is the mountain. And up on the top of the mountain, we set up our guns. We could actually, the planes was on the same level as we were.
That's how high this mountain was.
That's how high we was. And I've been back there today many times again, and they now have a cross on the top of that mountain. You know, talking about going through everything, you can't pinpoint everything. It's
Sure.
And we all say, and you know, war is hell, no matter what. And I'm fortunate.
Well, we're fortunate that we have you as a spokesman. Now, and I can't pronounce the name of the dam. I know
Shawamo Dam.
That's why I can't pronounce it.
Yes.
But that was also a key element.
Yes. I have to say this. I didn't go to the dam. I had a problem with my leg, and they sent me back. And it's like I've always said, I'm built like a computer, and what's to be will be. And that was, if that dam had been blown by the Germans, and they wanted to blow it, again, we don't know if the Germans were on our side the same way with to go back a little thing about the bridge.
Sure.
Hitler actually killed 5 of his officers in a tunnel on the other side of the bridge on the east side.
Really?
Because they didn't complete their mission. He actually had them shot. But at the dam, I don't know too much about it. But what I've read, if they had blown that dam, everybody down below, it would have been wiped out.
Would have drowned?
Yes. I've been back to the dam. It's a beautiful dam. It's a big dam.
And it's still there thanks
Yes,
to you guys, yeah. It's excellent. All right, now, you were involved in the bulge for 180 days?
They claim it was 180 days.
Okay, and then from there you moved on to where?
Well, when we went over after that, we got in, and I didn't even see the end of the war in combat.
Okay.
They went to a place called Wuppertal. And again, I've been back to Wuppertal for the first time as a tour.
Not as a soldier?
Yes, sir. And I have to mention this because I've stayed at the Germans' home in Wuppertal that we actually fought against.
Really?
In a place called Kesternick. This gentleman, he's been to our reunions. I've been to his reunions. We met back at Kesternick. I still keep in touch with him. And I have to say this. I have no hard feelings. I said this on my other programs. I have no qualms against the German people. I've met a lot of wonderful people.
They were doing their job and you were doing
sir.
yours, yeah.
And this German, when I left there, I stayed there 3 days. He said to me, Stu, the key is always under the mat.
That's nice. That's a nice
And
thought.
that's the way I like to leave it.
Now the SS, they were different. They were the German SS was a different breed of soldier. Something happened in Malmedy which affected.
Yes, I wasn't at Malmedy, but I've been back to it since it's happened. They have a beautiful monument there to quite a few at least 80 men. The story I know about it is they was captured when they was coming back, and a German tank group, they were captured, and they was put in the field across the street where the monument is now, next to a restaurant. It was in the wintertime, cold, snow. They had them in the field with their hands up, and the commander, I think his name is Pizer, something like that, I can't remember, but he was a tough German soldier. He was a commander. And they raised up the tarp off the back of a truck, and there was a machine gunner. And they opened up on these young men, and they wiped most of them out. I heard the story from a fellow from Texas on a bus trip. He knew 3 of the men. 3 of them got away. So they got the story about this.
So this sort of changed, it had to change the feeling that our soldiers had at that point.
Yes.
This is a massacre, an unwarranted massacre of prisoners of war.
That's when we heard the story that we have joined. Probably American soldiers have done atrocities also.
Mm-hmm.
But when we heard this, they all say it's fair and love in war, but to know the Geneva Conference and all that stuff it don't work in wartime.
Right. So your attitudes and your fellow soldiers, your attitudes changed now.
Yes,
You're viewing this a little differently than you had before this massacre. So now while you were there, you were also part of the occupation force?
Yes, after the war was over, we went into it up near Kassel. Kassel's a beautiful place. I got lucky. I was in a small town called Naumburg, and we spent a lot of time there, a long time there. And I got back there about 3 times already.
Oh, nice.
That was almost like a second home. John, you know, I have a lot of friends here in New York, but I've always been treated like I was one of their own. And I've been to a little town called Netze. I've been to another town called Frankenau. Now, I think we're going to talk about something later on. I won't go into this, but I've been in a lot of homes over there. These people take you in. They don't charge you a penny. They take you over.
Nice. Now, when you were in the occupation force, I'm going to go back again a little bit to the actual war. How did the Germans treat you? Were they
We had no
angry
problem.
or?
We weren't supposed to fraternize. We weren't supposed to fraternize, but we did.
Sure.
I met some real nice real people, and we were never mistreated.
So the citizenry sort of
Yes.
appreciated the fact
Yes.
that the United States
And I
Army
think
was
they
there.
found out that the Americans were pretty decent people. See, when we first, like during the war, actual war, most of the time we found citizens in the cellar.
Okay.
And they were scared. They were
I
very
do.
scared because of the propaganda. They were told that they would be killed by the American soldiers. And I don't care what war we are in, I have to say this. I think every one of us has a certain young child that means a lot to us. I had a nice young child in my arms, which I have a picture of, but I could never find her. I've tried.
Oh.
But that's another thing. But we spent time there, and then we got to go to Berlin. That's when we went to the Russians on the border.
And how was the interaction with the Russian soldiers?
This is a different story to me. I think we were mistreated more by the Russians than we were with the Germans.
Really?
Yes. They were good allies, let me put it this way. But I don't think they really liked the Americans. Even in Germany and in Berlin, most of the people that we knew in Russian soldiers were, should I say the word peasants?
Okay. Sure.
And they were like a lot of us guys from a small town. It's the first time they ever probably had a chance to get out and
Everyday
really live
folk.
it up.
Yeah.
And this is a fact. They carried submachine guns. We didn't have no weapons. We didn't carry weapons. If they ever got into a Jeep, they didn't know what a brake was. I'm serious. They put their hand on the horn and the foot on the accelerator,
Gas, and that was it.
and they just go. And if you was walking down with a young lady, and they wanted that young lady, you're in trouble.
Really?
Because they had the weapons.
That's true. Sure.
I didn't particularly care for the Russians. I really did. We was right on the Russian border when they had the wall there and everything. It's not a nice thing to see a wall separating people.
Right down the middle of
And
the
you
town.
know how they treated the Germans? And we were lucky we used the air to get food into their sector.
The air left, sure.
They wouldn't let us go through the checkpoints.
Now, again, during the battle, if you could take us to a daily routine, I mean, how did you shave? How did you bathe? How did you sleep, knowing that there's...
Well, to answer the whole three questions, you didn't do much of anything except fight. We didn't get too many hot meals. We had a K ration, C rations, and a D bar. Very seldom we got a hot meal because they couldn't get up to us, mostly on the front lines. When we was just sitting, waiting, then they could get a hot meal up, and we appreciated
the
that.
next action.
Yes.
Now, did you actually have places where you could sleep? I mean, you didn't have bunks and stuff like...
Well, a friend of mine, which is a very, very good friend, he's still living too, and he named a son after me. We shared our gut position in a town going back now, in a town called Lamesdorf. We were there about a month, at least a month, and we built like a home there. And most of our time was in war, and during the war it was winter time.
It's cold, sure.
It was cold, it really was. And we had no galoshes. We found out later on they had them. We never got no galoshes. No overcoats. We had a few jackets.
And that can be extremely uncomfortable if your feet get wet.
It's really
and cold.
something, the human body, what it can take when it has to do. And in Lamesdorf, we did have a bond when we had the time off, when we changed our positions. We used to go into the barn, and one night the Germans, we knew the Germans were out there, and they threw some mortars in, and they hit the barn. We lost a couple of guys in there. And one of them was a good sergeant. He didn't die, but he got pretty badly wounded. And you can't hear the mortars coming in. They just go, you don't hear nothing.
All you hear is when they go off.
Yeah. You do hear the 88. The 88 just go whoosh, that's it. The Germans did. They had wonderful, wonderful material. They had great weapons.
Their weaponry was good, yeah.
Yes.
Sure. So you were 30 caliber machine gunner. You would. Did you ever sleep? I know the stories are about foxholes. And did you have to sleep with where the gun was, or?
When you was at the gun, you didn't sleep.
Okay.
You better not be sleeping. Let me put it that way. It was just two of us. We had the number one and the number two gunner. It was just the two of us. We actually have, I think it was the number one, number two gunner. The number one gunner, he carried the tripod. The number two, he carried the weapon.
The actual barrel in there.
So when I put the tripod down, he puts the weapon on. I sit down. Then we had, I think, 8 ammo barrels.
Oh, 8? Okay.
They carried the ammunition. When we was in Lamesdorf, and I have to say I'm proud of what I'm going to say. I can honestly say that I don't know if I killed a German soldier or civilian. I did mention my other one that at Lamesdorf, I did open up one time, and I did see some jump, because we've got 300 yards at least away.
Yeah, that's a big gun.
But I can sleep better. A lot of people, I know you go there, you're taught to kill, but I feel better this way.
That's good. So the war's not over, but it's time for Stu to come home. What were your feelings when you you can finally leave behind this mess called war and head back to the United States.
John, I'm going to tell you a story about this. I'm not proud of this story. During the wartime, during the front lines, our squad leader, a buck sergeant, 3 stripes, he stepped on a shoe mine. He lost his foot. And they made me a squad leader, at least in name. They let me wear the stripes 6 months. All the time I was on, I was a squad leader. I never got paid. I was never paid. I don't know what the reason was. I never found out. It is on my discharge that I was a squad leader. I was going to fight it, but that's a losing battle. But things do happen. But in Berlin, when I was stationed there, as I started to say I'm not proud, we would be on guard duty at a warehouse town place, a big warehouse. We all did this. While we was on guard duty, we took a chance. We used to go in off the guard illegally, have our coffee, talk to the young ladies. Well, I got a surprise. It was not my time, my day. A major come in, and he caught me off guard. Now, I was just ready to come home. It was my fault. I was guilty. And I went out, and I didn't have much training on the front lines. I had my rifle. I gave him the wrong salute with my rifle. He wasn't a happy. He was not a happy.
Not a major, no.
But again, they court-martialed me. Again, I am not proud of this. I got 3 months. 3 months and $90 pay.
That's a lot of money.
I actually served in one of their camps. And just by luck, I'm going to say this. My man upstairs, the Lord, he's on my side. A chaplain came, and we had a talk. And he arranged it that I went outside of the gate. I got a job in the office.
Oh, good.
Signing these people in. I used to have the honor of going down with the Jeep, picking up movies. I used to run the projector and everything. Well, this chaplain got me off in 30 days.
Good. And the chaplains sort of run the army.
Yes, he was a real great guy. And I should have been home by the time that I spent there. But I would never forget this man. I happened to meet him one time, and it's a coincidence. I met this gentleman in Grand Central Station.
Oh,
Yes.
really?
Yes, sir.
The chaplain?
The chaplain.
Wow.
And I've been to his home in Maryland. My wife and I visited. And God rest his soul, I'll never forget this man.
Well, you made a lot of friends, Stu. Long-lasting friendships, yeah.
Yes, I have. I've been very lucky.
Been blessed.
I hope you don't mind these little side stories.
That's fine. As a matter of fact, we're going to take a short break here, and we'll be right back.
Hey, guys. Ooh, I've been looking for that. Has legal seen this?
Yeah. Cheryl, what happened to your,
Oh, yeah, I know. If it gets any worse, I'll have it checked out.
worse? How could it get worse?
I'm fine.
You wouldn't ignore this, so why ignore the signs of a stroke? At the first warning signs, call 911 immediately, because time lost is brain lost.
Welcome back. We're here with Stu Brandow, and we're hearing the interesting stories of the Battle of the Bulge and the other sidelines while you were in the United States Army. So you're ready to come back to the United States now. You served your country well. You're coming back to the United States. Are they flying you back, or again, are you taking the slow ship to the United States?
Well, I finally got to leave Berlin. I'd like to mention, I was a Company D, 310th, 78th Division. We didn't mention this, but I'd like to give them credit.
Okay.
And we left from there and we landed in Bremerhaven. And we left from Bremerhaven and came back back to America. That was a tough trip home. We hit rough seas.
The Atlantic crossing, sure.
It was a rough. Going over, I never got sick.
Now, were you on a Liberty boat?
Yes.
They ride like a cork, yes.
And I really got seasick. And I don't know which is worse, seasick through the front lines. It's tough. But again, we made it back. And we landed in New York again. And they shipped us back to Fort Dix, where we got discharged from. And they put us all through our regulars and what we wanted, we take home, or what we didn't want. And wanted to know if we wanted to re-up. And I said, what'd you say?
Exactly.
No,
Let me have my discharge, please.
No, I was so happy to get home. I didn't even take a duffel bag home.
Okay.
I just left it. I was sorry. I should have taken
Yeah.
my things home.
Yeah. Well, hindsight.
But I got home. When I got home, there was, again, I do, and I'm proud of what I'm going to say. I come from a poor family. I had nothing when I went into the service. I had nothing when I come out of the service. I had a lot of experience. The government they gave us 52.20. That meant 52 weeks, $20 a week. I took my 52 weeks. I did odd jobs. I finally got a friend of mine. He put me in contact with the Western Union.
Okay.
And I got a job with the Western Union. It wasn't one of my better jobs, but it started me off. And I appreciated the lady I knew and all. I got to be an operator. I took tests over in Washington, New Jersey.
Okay.
I worked in Kingston, New York. I worked in Stamford, Connecticut. I worked in Camp Kilmer. I got to be a manager. And I worked at Camp Kilmer at the worst time because that's when the troops was coming home.
Oh.
The first thing these guys would do, they'd come and they would line up. And we had the system that you could write home for money, the money orders.
Okay, yeah.
So we sent thousands of messages to the people, and then we got thousands of messages back from the people. We were busy. Well, then we found out that there was a job in Westfield. Western Union was not the best paying job. They had me going from Camp Kilmer to Westfield, back and forth.
That's a drive.
Yes, it was. Well, one time while I was a manager in the Western Union, I've always told them I'd help. Never let the help or customers hang around in the office. Well, this one friend of mine, he's not living, God bless his soul. He made a mistake, had a guy hanging around. And the guy happened to have a bedpost in his jacket. And he hit the guy in the head.
Really?
Yes. He got robbed. I got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. And
So this was a robbery?
Yes, sir. You don't know what you have to go through on a military post when you have a robbery.
I can imagine. The paperwork normally is difficult, but I can imagine something like that.
But anyway, at the same time, we also, I try to keep good relations with everybody. We had a guy come in, and he had money orders, and I checked them out, and I found out they were stolen.
Oh.
And I kept them, and I called the provost marshal's office.
Right.
You know, John, funny things happen. The provost marshal wanted me to bring them down to him. I said, no, sir, you come up and get them from me. He wanted me to give them to him without any signatures. I said, you're not getting these, not from me.
Exactly. Now you need to verify.
You know what they
that,
did? They bodily took me out and took me down to the provost marshals.
which is the sheriff in town, for those who don't know. The now, if I can, just real quick, is the war's over. You've served your country. You've served your country well. How do you look back at your time in the United States Army and what you actually did for this great land of ours?
What did I do?
How do you look back? I mean, when you look back at it, how do you feel about what you did?
Related. It was a wonderful feeling. It was a wonderful feeling. I failed to mention something while I was in the service, and I was engaged. I got engaged while I was in the service. Well, when I came home, I had a little surprise.
Dear John, or Dear Stu?
I found out that she did something I didn't like. I knew she joined the Marines. And I did go to see her in North Carolina, and I could tell right away.
It wasn't there.
She found a Marine. But I have to thank her because she didn't send me a Dear John letter when I was in and brought me home. But there wasn't nothing much up in the Catskills. I am very fortunate. When I was at Camp Kilmer, this friend of mine that got hit in the head, he had a young lady, a friend, who worked with a lady that worked in Cornell Duvalier in South Plainfield. This young lady happened to be the lady that I married.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
I was fortunate. I used to live in Fords. In fact, I lived in New Brunswick for a while, and then I lived in Fords. I am very, very fortunate that I ended up in Woodbridge. I cannot say enough about Woodbridge. Woodbridge is my home, and it will always be my home.
Well, Woodbridge is very happy. We're very fortunate to have someone like you, Stu.
I am.
Now, we're the fortunate ones, all of us that live in Woodbridge, to have you with us. We're going to say goodbye again, Stu. Thank you so much for giving us some insight into what went on during the war. And I know you don't like to hear this, but I'm going to tell you this. In my mind, you're a hero. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be back again with another story of one of our veterans.
Thank you, John.